Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Russia unilateral ceasefire for the Orthodox Christmas comes into effect despite skepticism from Ukraine and its Western allies. Security forces thwart attempt by a group of army officers to overthrow the Chadian government. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak invites union leaders for talks next week. My name is Tunde Idowu. We begin from Russia. Russian state media says a ceasefire ordered by President Vladimir Putin has come into effect in Ukraine despite criticism from the Ukrainian side. Russia's State First channel said at noon the ceasefire regime came into force on the entire contact line and it will continue until the end of January the 7th. The 36-hour ceasefire is to respect Orthodox Christmas, but Ukraine has rejected the effort as a cynical ploy. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine attacked each other's position in eastern Ukraine earlier today. Russian shells hit Kramatorsk, a Ukrainian city near the front line in the industrial Donetsk region that Russia claims as its territory. Still in Russia, Russia says Ukraine is unilaterally shelling Russian military positions during a 36-hour ceasefire, which Kiev and its allies have dismissed as a sham. The Russian Defense Ministry said its position had come under attack in the Luhansk, Donetsk, and Zaporizhia regions, but that its troops were observing the ceasefire. It said 4 mortar shells were fired at Russian positions by the armed forces of Ukraine in the direction of Liman. Kiev said it has no intention of halting fighting for the Russian ceasefire, which Ukraine and its allies called a ploy to give Moscow time to regroup. A train carrying Russian troops and equipment has arrived in Belarus amid concerns that Moscow could use its allies' territory to attack Ukraine from the north. The Belarusian Defense Ministry confirmed the arrival of the contingent today. Belarus, who is a close Moscow ally, had yesterday said it will receive more weapons and equipment from Russia as the two countries boost their military cooperation. Earlier, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko visited a military base where Russian troops are stationed. He was said to have met with an unnamed representative from the Russian army, and they both discussed joint military drills. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky via phone that he will consider an invitation to visit Kiev depending on various circumstances. Kishida disclosed this to newsmen and further reaffirmed Tokyo's full support for Ukraine. He stated that Japan will do its utmost to provide assistance, including to get through the winter in order to protect the lives of the Ukrainian people. Earlier, Japan Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno had told newsmen that the head of the Ukrainian president's office, Andriy Yermak, had extended an invitation for Kishida's visit via Tokyo's ambassador to Kiev. Kishida confirmed that he had received the invitation and said he would like to consider it based on various circumstances, adding that nothing had yet been decided. Dutch police say they have identified a torso wrapped in blue plastic in the IJ River in 2013 as belonging to missing Russian art dealer Alexander Levin. Police spokesperson Wendy Baudujin said the Dutch authorities identified the remains by DNA testing in 2021, but did not initially release the identity as they have not yet contacted Levin's next of kin. Baudujin stated that since the February 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, cooperation between Moscow and Amsterdam has been severed. Levin was a wealthy businessman who dealt with icons. Levin's body, which had the head and limbs severed, was found in the water near Amsterdam gentrified docklands across from the Central Train Station in January of 2013. And coming to Africa, Chad government says its security forces have foiled an attempt by a group of army officers to destabilize the country and undermine constitutional order. In a statement, the Chadian Communications Minister Aziz Mohammed said the plan was devised by a restricted group of conspirators composed of 11 army officers. He stated that the president of the Chadian Human Rights Organization, Baradin Badel, was at the helm of the plot. He further revealed that a formal invitation had been opened for violations of the constitutional order, criminal association, illegal possession of a firearm, and complicity. Botswana former President Ian Khama has filed an urgent court application seeking to strike down an arrest warrant issued against him by a magistrate last week. Yesterday showed that he asked the High Court in the capital, Gaborone, to set aside the warrant or stay its execution, citing a lack of evidence for his prosecution. Khama, in the filing to contest the warrant, said the warrant of arrest threatens his right to liberty in circumstances where he has committed no crime. The warrant was issued after the 69-year-old Botswana's immediate past president failed to turn up in court to answer charges laid against him in April. The charges include unlawful possession of a firearm, receiving stolen property, and procuring the registration of a firearm by false pretense. Khama, whose late father, Serites, was Botswana's founding president, is in a dispute with his successor, incumbent president Mokwetsi Masisi, which resulted in him quitting the ruling Botswana Democratic Party in 2019. Armed fighters from Al-Shabaab have killed at least 6 people in an attack on a village in central Somalia that they were pushed out of last week. Today's attack targeted the village of Hilowil Gab in Hirshabelle State, which Somalia's army and allied clan militias captured from Al-Shabaab last week. A spokesman for the local clan militia, Husseini Aden, confirmed the incident, stating that the fighters attacked the village during morning prayers at about 5 a.m. with car bombs. He said a gunfight ensued, during which the armed rebels were repelled, adding that soldiers and militiamen were among those killed. However, Al-Shabaab in a statement said it had recaptured the village and seized military vehicles and weapons, but residents and a local politician disputed the claim. United Nations intelligence analysts have spotted suspected movements by M23 rebels in parts of the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, from which they were meant to have withdrawn from. This was revealed in an internal UN document seen by newsmen yesterday. The document also showed that there are signs that the armed group has seized ground in other areas amid uncertainty about the exact status of the conflict in the Kibumba area, which the rebels were meant to have left as of December 23rd as part of a ceasefire brokered by East African leaders. The report also highlights examples of M23 violently seizing new territory elsewhere, even after they participated in the ceremony to hand over Kibumba to East African Community forces in what they called a goodwill gesture under the ceasefire. At least 450,000 people have been displaced since last year in the new offensive by the Tutsi-led rebel group, which the DRC government The European Union and a UN experts group says it's supported by neighboring Rwanda. And in UK, Health Secretary Steve Barclay says he is looking forward to talking with the Royal College of Nurses to discuss pay. The government has invited unions to speak with relevant departments to try to find a way through the current strike. The RCN's General Secretary, Pat Collin, has indicated she may be willing to drop her pay demand from a 19% rise to a 10% uplift instead. Mr. Barclay said the pay review body will be looking at the pressure of cost of living, inflation, issues of productivity and efficiency.
Keen to have dialogue with Pat Cullen and the RCN. I wrote to them last week looking at the coming year, at the pressures from inflation and cost of living, how we could work together to make any settlement more affordable in terms of looking at what productivity opportunities there are, what efficiency opportunities there are, because there's common ground in recognising that the NHS is under pressure and we need to respond to that. So I look forward to talking with the RCN and the other trade unions to see how do we make any settlement done through the independent pay review body more affordable. Where are those productivity and efficiency opportunities? I've written to Pat on that and I hope she engages on it.
Is 10% acceptable? Is that an acceptable figure?
Well, the RCN actually turned down an offer in Scotland which was 7.5% and significantly more than 10% if you look to the other things within that package. But the key thing is to look at the coming year. The pay review body will be looking at the pressure of cost of living, the pressure on inflation.
You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Spring Global, coming to you live from Western Spring Television. Still in the UK, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said all union leaders have been invited to have grown-up, honest talks with their respective department next week, Monday. Speaking today, the Prime Minister revealed the date for the summit, stating that he is hopeful the talks will be constructive. Asked if the talks will discuss the pay rises currently causing widespread industrial action in the UK, Mr. Sunak said the government wants to have honest conversations with all union leaders about what is responsible, what is reasonable, and what is affordable when it comes to pay rise. He also defended his plan for a new law to limit strike action, insisting his new legislation to bring in a minimum service level for ambulances, the fire service, and railway networks was needed to protect lives. It comes as services were again today crippled by the walkout by members of 15 train operators, ending a week of industrial action on the railways with the dispute remaining deadlocked. Meanwhile, Junior doctors in England have announced that they will strike in March if they vote in favor of industrial action.
With regard to strikes, yesterday the government wrote to all union leaders, inviting them in for talks on Monday. We incredibly value the important work that our public sector workers do, especially our nurses, and we want to have an honest, grown-up conversation about what's affordable, what's responsible for the country. Those invitations have gone out, and I'm hopeful that those meetings can happen on Monday so we can have a productive conversation and find a way through this.
And just on the legislation that you brought in, could people be sacked for not going to work in the health service?
So, I fully believe in the union's role in our society and the freedom for them to strike. But I also believe that that should be balanced with the right of ordinary working people to go about their lives free from significant disruption. And that's why we're going to bring forward new laws in common with countries like France, Italy, Spain, and others that ensure that we have minimum levels of safety in critical areas like fire, like ambulance, so that even when strikes are going on, that your health will be protected. I think that's entirely reasonable, and that's what our new laws will do.
A United States warship sailed through the Taiwan Strait between Taiwan and the Chinese mainland yesterday, prompting criticism from Beijing. The U.S. military said the USS Chung Hoon's transit showed the U.S. commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, but the Chinese embassy spokesman in Washington said the voyage was to flex muscle and accused the U.S. of undermining peace and stability. The embassy spokesman said the Chinese military monitored the USS Chung Hoon's transit, adding that the country will safeguard its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and has vowed to unify it by force if necessary. Self-ruled Taiwan sees itself as distinct from the mainland. 3 security force members have died in clashes in the state of Sinaloa after the arrest of a son of notorious Mexican drug kingpin El Chapo Ovidio Guzman Lopez, alleged to be a leader of his father's former cartel, was captured in Colican and transferred to Mexico City. Furious gang members set up roadblocks, set fire to vehicles, and attacked a local airport. 2 planes were hit by gunfire, one while preparing to take off. More than 100 flights have been cancelled at 3 Sinaloa airports. The state governor, Ruben Rocha Moya, however, said that 18 people had been admitted to hospital. United Nations Security Council members voiced concern and stressed the need to maintain the status quo at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem, but did not commit to any action. The decade-old status quo at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound allows only Muslim worship at the site, which is Islam's 3rd holiest after Mecca and Medina. But the site is also revered by Jews who call it the Temple Mount. Israel's far-right groups have long attempted to change the status quo and allow Jewish prayer at the site. The Palestinian ambassador, Bays Said, expressed his dismay that the council was taking no action and warned the council that the situation could turn into an uprising. The UN Security Council meeting comes days after Israel's new far-right security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, made a controversial visit to the site, which Palestinian leaders called an unprecedented provocation. Meanwhile, Israeli police say they have arrested 2 people suspected of vandalizing more than 30 graves in a Protestant cemetery in Jerusalem earlier this month. Security footage circulated on social media showed one man of Orthodox Jewish appearance entering the Protestant Mount Zion Cemetery last Sunday, pushing over a cross-shaped tombstone and smashing it with rocks with the help of a second man. In a statement, the police said extensive damage was caused to gravestones, calling it an act of intentional vandalism and defacement. Police said 2 people, aged 14 and 18, were arrested and will be brought to court, stating that the both of them were residents of Central Israel. Vietnam's National Assembly has voted to dismiss 2 deputy prime ministers from their post in what analysts believe is a new escalation in an anti-corruption crackdown. There was no explanation of Parliament's decision to remove Pham Binh My and Vu Duc Dam, but the move comes at a time when the communist-ruled country is intensifying its fight against corruption. The Parliament also ratified the appointment of Environment Minister Tran Hong Ha and the party's chief of Haiphong City, Tran Lu Yang, on the two new deputy prime ministers. Min, age 63, served as the country's foreign minister between 2011 and 2021 and is as a deputy prime minister from 2013. Dam, age 59, who was appointed as a deputy prime minister in 2013, is widely known for his efforts to lead the Southeast Asian country's fight against the COVID pandemic. And in business news, Afghanistan's Taliban government is to sign a contract with a Chinese firm to drill for oil in the country's north. It will be first major energy extraction agreement with a foreign firm since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan in 2021. The 25-year deal underscores China's economic involvement in the region. Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid said the oil extraction agreement will see Xinjiang Central Asia Petroleum and Gas Company drilling for oil in the Amu Darya Basin. A Chinese state-owned company is also in talks over the operation of a copper mine in the east of the country. Afghanistan is estimated to be sitting on natural resources, including natural gas, copper, and rare earths worth more than $1 trillion. However, much of those reserves remain untapped due to decades of turmoil in the country. Talking sports, tributes continue to pour in for former Chelsea player and manager Gianluca Vialli, who passed away this morning. Vialli, aged 58, played 59 times for Italy and won the Champions League with Juventus before joining Chelsea in 1996 and becoming player-manager in 1998. He joined Juventus in 1992 for a then world record £12 million after winning the Serie A title and the European Cup Winners' Cup during 8 seasons with Sampdoria. Vialli was the first Italian to manage a Premier League side, taking over from the sacked Ruud Gullit late in the season, and went on to lead the Blues to victory in the League Cup, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, and UEFA Super Cup. Novak Djokovic defeated Denis Shapovalov 6-3, 6-4 to reach the Adelaide International semifinals, where he will face Daniil Medvedev. Djokovic, 35, will meet Medvedev after the Russian came through his last 8 match with Karen Khachanov 6-3, 6-3. The pair last met in November, with Djokovic victorious in the final of the Nitto ATP Finals event. Adelaide is Djokovic's first tournament in Australia since he was deported in 2022 because of his vaccine status. The Serb is targeting a 10th title and a record equaling 22nd overall Grand Slam success.
With a 6-3. Well, the scoreline may seem routine, but it was far from that. Shapovalov putting on a very late fight there, and credit to him for not giving in after the first break.
Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. Russian state media says a ceasefire ordered by President Vladimir Putin has come into effect in Ukraine, which Kiev and its allies have dismissed as a sham. Chad's government says its security forces have foiled an attempt by a group of army officers to destabilize the country and undermine constitutional order. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said all union leaders have been invited to have grown-up honest talks with their respective departments next week, Monday. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. So glad to be with you. Thank you for being there. I am Tunde Idowu. Good evening.